Do you think ancient pagan deities are just myths? Stories created to explain natural phenomena before science gave us answers? What if I told you some of these entities never stopped existing? That one in particular has been feeding on human suffering for centuries, carefully erased from official records, but leaving traces for those who know where to look. Tonight, we uncover the disturbing reality behind an entity known as Bughuul, a name deliberately obscured from history, but whose presence can be traced through unexplained disappearances, bizarre deaths, and haunting imagery across cultures and time periods. This isn't fiction. This is documented evidence that authorities have systematically buried. The earliest confirmed reference to Bagul appears in fragmentary Sumerian clay tablets dated approximately 4200 BCE. Archaeological teams working in southern Iraq in 1923 uncovered a collection of tablets in a sealed chamber beneath what was believed to be a temple complex. The tablets described a devourer of children who moves between worlds through reflected surfaces. What's particularly disturbing is that the discovery team, led by British archaeologist Edmund Holloway, mysteriously disappeared 3 weeks after documenting their find. Only Holloway's assistant, Thomas Pierce, survived. He had fallen ill and returned to England before the disappearances. According to Pierce's private journals, acquired by this researcher through his last living descendant, the team had uncovered a small obsidian mirror alongside the tablets. Pierce wrote, "Edmund became obsessed with the mirror, claiming he could see movement within it during the midnight hours. The others began having nightmares, children with blackened faces, always watching, always waiting." The tablets and mirror were supposedly sent to the British Museum for analysis, but official records show no entry for these artifacts. When pressed for information in 1924, museum officials stated the shipment never arrived. The excavation site was quickly backfilled under orders from colonial administrators, citing structural instability. No further excavations were permitted. This pattern repeats throughout history. Evidence emerges, followed by mysterious deaths or disappearances, then official denial and documentation vanishes. In 1647, a Bavarian woodcutter named Hans Kirschner created a series of distinctive woodblock prints depicting a tall, emaciated figure with hollow eyes and elongated fingers. The figure appeared to be wearing some kind of ceremonial mask with animal-like features. Each print showed the entity with children in various stages of what appears to be soul extraction, dark mist flowing from the children's mouths into the figures. What makes these prints remarkable isn't just their disturbing imagery, but the fact that Kirschner had no formal artistic training. According to local church records, he began creating the prints after his 3 children disappeared during a harsh winter. Kirschner claimed the entity, which he called Der Kinderfresser, the child eater, had taken them through his wife's polished silver mirror. Authorities dismissed his claims as the ravings of a grief-stricken father, but 12 additional children disappeared from the region over the following month. Kirschner was eventually executed for their murders, though no bodies were ever found. Before his execution, he reportedly carved a final image into his cell wall, the same masked figure, now with 16 children trailing behind it like shadows. The church ordered all his prints destroyed, calling them blasphemous and corrupting. Only 3 survived, sealed away in the private collection of the presiding judge. These prints resurfaced in 1887 when the judge's descendant, Baron Friedrich von Kesselring, displayed them briefly at a private exhibition in Munich. All 3 disappeared from their frames during the exhibition. 2 guests reported seeing a tall, thin man near the display, but could recall no specific details about his appearance. Waiting, watching, collecting. The pattern continued across Europe. In 1701, 5 children vanished from a small village near Lyon, France. The only connection between them, each child had recently reported seeing a thin man with no face in mirrors or windows. Local authorities blamed Romani travelers passing through the region. No evidence was ever found linking them to the disappearances. The most extensively documented case occurred in 1873 in Northumberland, England. The wealthy Carrington family lost all 4 children over a period of 6 weeks. The family's patriarch, industrialist William Carrington, kept meticulous journals documenting the events leading up to and following the disappearances. According to Carrington's journals, now held in a private collection, the trouble began after the family purchased an antique painting at auction, a landscape depicting a twisted tree with what appeared to be a small, dark figure standing beneath it. The painting came from the estate of Lord Thomas Blackwood, whose own children had mysteriously vanished in 1863. Carrington wrote that his eldest daughter, Margaret, aged 12, complained about the tall man who watches from the painting at night. 3 days later, she vanished from her locked bedroom. The only evidence was a strange ash-like residue on her bedroom mirror and a crude symbol drawn underneath her bed, resembling an inverted triangle with curved lines extending from each point. Within 6 weeks, all 4 Carrington children had vanished under identical circumstances. William Carrington launched a private investigation, hiring former Scotland Yard detective James Harlow. Harlow's investigation notes detailed interviews with household staff who reported hearing scratching inside the walls and children's whispers in empty rooms. Most telling was Harlow's interview with the family's youngest maid, Elizabeth Crane, who claimed she had seen the children after their disappearances. They stood behind the glass of every mirror, their faces darkened as if burnt, their eyes hollow. They wouldn't speak, only reach toward the glass. Harlow's investigation ended abruptly when he was found dead in the Carrington home study, apparently from self-inflicted wounds. The official report stated he had succumbed to delusions and cut his own throat. However, Carrington's journal entry from that day tells a different story. Harlow's face frozen in terror. Mirror shattered, the symbol drawn in blood on the floor. He found something. He knew. After Harlow's death, Carrington became obsessed with researching similar disappearances. His journals document dozens of cases across Europe dating back centuries, all sharing key elements: children vanishing from locked rooms, ash residue, mysterious symbols, and witnesses reporting a tall figure with a mask-like face. Carrington eventually traced the entity to ancient origins, finding reference to a deity called Bagul in obscure texts. He described it as a consumer of innocence, an eater of children's souls who exists in a realm behind reflective surfaces. William Carrington was found dead in his study in 1876, surrounded by his research. Officials ruled it suicide, though the coroner's report, which I obtained through a Freedom of Information request, notes the unusual condition of Carrington's eyes, described as completely blackened, as if burned from within. All of his research was confiscated by authorities and subsequently disappeared from police evidence storage. The painting that allegedly started the Carrington tragedy was supposedly destroyed. Yet a painting matching its exact description appeared at a private auction in Boston in 1912, purchased by railroad magnate Howard Pritchard. Within 3 months, Pritchard's 2 children vanished. The painting disappeared shortly after. By the early 20th century, mentions of the entity became more scattered but no less disturbing. In 1934, police in Philadelphia investigated the disappearance of 5 children from different families across the city. Detective Franklin Morgan, documented in his unofficial case, notes that all 5 households had recently acquired antique mirrors from the same estate sale. Morgan's investigation was shut down by his superiors, the case officially attributed to a transient kidnapper who was never identified or apprehended. Morgan continued investigating unofficially, compiling evidence of similar cases across the United States. His research led him to Professor Alan Tanner at Miskatonic University, an expert in comparative mythology who had published several obscure papers on child-stealing entities across different cultures. Tanner's papers, now almost impossible to find in academic databases, connected dozens of seemingly disparate folklore creatures, Der Kinderfresser, Black Annis, El Coco, and others, suggesting they were all cultural interpretations of the same entity. He traced the original name to Sumerian origins, Bagul, meaning he who feasts on the innocent. According to Tanner's research, Bagul was neither demon nor ghost, but something older, an entity that existed in a realm parallel to our own, able to cross over through reflective surfaces and depictions of itself. Most importantly, Tanner theorized that Bughuul required periodic consumption of children's souls to maintain its existence in our world. 3 weeks after meeting with Detective Morgan, Professor Tanner was found dead in his university office. The official cause was listed as heart failure, though colleagues reported that his body was discovered facing his office window, his expression fixed in terror, his eyes described as completely blackened. Morgan disappeared 2 days later. His research files were allegedly destroyed in a precinct storage fire in 1935. I obtained copies of his notes through his granddaughter, who had kept his personal journal locked away for decades, afraid to share its contents. The pattern continued throughout the 20th century, though increasingly obscured by official explanations and media narratives. Between 1952 and 1956, 14 children disappeared from communities across the American Midwest. FBI investigation files, heavily redacted when obtained through Freedom of Information requests, reveal that agents noted the presence of identical iconography found in each child's home, a symbol matching the one described in the Carrington case nearly 80 years earlier. The investigation was suddenly classified and reassigned to an unnamed specialized division. All references to the symbols and other connecting evidence were purged from official records. The cases were officially attributed to a suspected serial kidnapper who was never identified or apprehended. In 1971, film student Robert Davidson began work on a documentary about missing children cases, focusing specifically on unexplained disappearances where children vanished from secured homes. 3 months into his research, Davidson's apartment caught fire. He died in the blaze along with all his materials. The fire was ruled accidental, caused by faulty wiring. However, Davidson's academic advisor, Professor Helen Marsh, had kept copies of some of his research notes. According to these notes, Davidson had identified a pattern spanning centuries. Children who disappeared typically reported seeing a tall man or thin man prior to vanishing. Many had created drawings of this figure, which Davidson had collected from police files and family members. All the drawings, created by different children across different decades and locations, showed remarkable similarities. A tall, emaciated figure with elongated limbs, hollow or absent facial features, often wearing what appeared to be an animal-like mask or headdress. Professor Marsh attempted to continue Davidson's research, but abruptly abandoned the project after reportedly experiencing disturbing dreams and finding symbols scratched into her bathroom mirror. She destroyed her copies of Davidson's research and refused to discuss the matter until her death in 2004. In her final years, suffering from dementia, nursing home staff documented her frequent distress over the children behind the glass and her fear of mirrors. All reflective surfaces had to be removed from her room. The digital age brought new dimensions to the Bagul phenomenon. In 1998, an anonymous user on an early internet forum dedicated to unsolved mysteries posted a comprehensive analysis connecting dozens of child disappearances to the entity. The post included scanned images of historical documents, including pages allegedly from William Carrington's journals and Professor Tanner's unpublished research. Most disturbing were included images of the symbol associated with Bughuul, the inverted triangle with curved lines, which the poster claimed had appeared throughout history at sites of disappearances. The post and entire forum were removed within hours. Users who tried to access the site reported their computers crashing, with some claiming the symbol briefly appeared on their screens before the system failed. One user who had downloaded the post materials, username Historian X, promised to create backup copies and distribute them. 3 days later, police in Seattle investigated the death of history graduate student Mark Phillips, found in his apartment with his computer destroyed. The cause of death was ruled as sudden cardiac arrest, despite Phillips being 26 years old with no prior health issues. His roommate reported that Phillips had been researching missing children cases and had mentioned the username Historian X in conversations. The digital trail went cold until 2007, when a collection of scanned documents appeared briefly on a file-sharing site. The collection included what appeared to be the complete Carrington journals, Detective Morgan's case files, and Professor Tanner's research. Additionally, it contained dozens of children's drawings of the tall figure and photographs of the symbol found at various locations. The files were removed within hours, but not before several users downloaded them. Those users later reported strange technical issues with their computers. screens flickering to show reflected images of empty rooms, audio recordings picking up what sounded like children's whispers, and the symbol appearing in seemingly random digital photographs taken with their devices. One downloader, technology journalist Laura Chen, published an article about the files and her subsequent experiences for an independent news website in 2008. The article was removed within days, and the website issued a retraction and apology for publishing fictional content presented as fact. Chen disappeared shortly after, her apartment found empty except for her computer, which had been completely destroyed as if crushed by enormous force. Between 2010 and 2015, 8 separate missing children cases across North America contained details consistent with historical Bagul incidents. Children reporting seeing a tall figure before disappearing from secured locations, residue found near mirrors or reflective surfaces, and in 3 cases, the symbol discovered hidden in the children's rooms. None of these details appeared in official police reports or media coverage. I obtained them through interviews with family members and responding officers who spoke on condition of anonymity, many expressing concern about potential repercussions for sharing this information. One detective from the Portland Police Bureau told me, "We were explicitly instructed to omit certain details from official reports. When I asked why, my supervisor said it was to prevent copycat incidents. But the symbol found in the girl's closet, it wasn't something public that could be copied. No one knew about it except the investigators." In 2017, a storage unit rented under a false name was discovered abandoned in Chicago. It contained hundreds of photographs, news clippings, and journals documenting disappearances dating back to the 1940s. Among the materials was a handwritten journal theorizing that the entity known as Bughuul required not just the souls of children, but also needed its victims to be documented through images. The journal's author, who signed only as Watcher, suggested that every photograph, film, or digital image of Bagul strengthened its presence in our world, creating new doorways for it to pass through. Most disturbing was the suggestion that mere knowledge of Bagul, awareness of its existence, made one vulnerable to its influence. Chicago police confiscated the storage unit contents. When I filed a Freedom of Information request, I was informed the materials had been destroyed due to contamination concerns without further explanation. In 2019, an anonymous package arrived at my office containing a USB drive with a single video file. The grainy footage showed what appeared to be 8mm home movies from the 1960s. A family picnic, children playing in a backyard, ordinary scenes, except for the tall, unnaturally thin figure visible in the background of several shots, standing motionless, its face indistinct except for what looked like a primitive mask. Digital forensic analysis confirmed the film's age and showed no signs of manipulation. The family in the footage was identified as the Simmons family of Lakewood, Colorado. Records show that all 3 Simmons children disappeared over a 2-week period in July 1966. The case was never solved. I attempted to track the package's origin, but security footage from my building's mailroom showed no one delivering it. The envelope simply appeared in the Daily Mail pile without explanation. 3 weeks after receiving the footage, I began experiencing technical anomalies in my home. Electronics activating without input, strange reflections in windows and screens, the distinct feeling of being watched. Twice I woke to find ash-like residue on my bathroom mirror. The entity known as Bagul has been collecting children for millennia. The pattern is always the same. It appears first in reflections or images, then manifests physically to take its victims. It leaves behind its mark and traces of ash. Those who investigate too deeply become targets themselves, not for collection, but for elimination. Throughout history, efforts to document Bagul's existence have been systematically erased. Records disappear. Researchers die under mysterious circumstances. Digital information vanishes. Even now, as I compile this research, I find my previous notes corrupted or missing, files deleted, recordings distorted. Why would authorities suppress this information? Perhaps to prevent panic. Perhaps because they've tried and failed to stop this entity before. Or perhaps because some organizations understand that Bagul's power grows with awareness. Each person who learns of its existence creates another potential gateway. What makes the Bagul phenomenon particularly disturbing is its evolution with technology. Where once it used mirrors and reflective surfaces, it now appears to utilize screens, digital images, and videos as conduits. Every photograph, every film, every digital file containing its image becomes another doorway. Consider this. Ancient cultures knew not to create images of certain entities, believing the depiction itself could summon them. Modern society has abandoned these taboos, flooding our world with images, videos, and digital reflections. We have created endless doorways. The most recent confirmed incident occurred in 2023 in a suburban community outside Portland, Oregon. 12-year-old Ella Winters vanished from her bedroom in the middle of the night. Security footage from the family's home system showed no intruders, no open doors or windows. Ella simply disappeared from her bed between one camera frame and the next. What the official investigation report doesn't mention, but which was confirmed to me by a family member, is that Ella had been creating drawings of a tall figure she called the skinny man with the cow face for weeks before her disappearance. She told her parents she could see him standing in her mirror at night. The morning after she vanished, her parents found ash residue on her bedroom mirror and a symbol drawn under her bed, an inverted triangle with curved lines extending from each point. 3 days after Ella's disappearance, her mother received a text message from Ella's phone, which had vanished along with her. The message contained only one sentence: "I can see you through the glass." When police traced the message, they found it had been sent from inside the house, specifically from Ella's empty bedroom. The Winters family has since relocated, refusing further contact with investigators or media. Their current whereabouts are unknown. As my investigation has deepened, I've discovered something even more disturbing. The appearances of Bagul throughout history show not random hunting, but a pattern of cultivation. It doesn't just take children, it watches them first, appears to them in reflections and dreams, creates a connection before collection. Most unsettling is the emerging pattern of generational targeting. In multiple cases, I've found that parents or grandparents of victims reported similar experiences in their own childhoods, seeing a tall figure, drawing the symbol unconsciously, experiencing phenomena around mirrors and reflective surfaces, yet they were not taken. It's as if Bagul marked them but chose to wait to collect their offspring instead. This suggests a level of patience and planning beyond simple predation. Bagul appears to be selectively breeding its victims across generations, perhaps cultivating specific traits or qualities. And now, as I compile this information, I'm forced to confront an uncomfortable truth. By documenting Bughuul, by spreading awareness of its existence, am I helping it expand its hunting grounds? Is knowledge itself a vector for this entity? Ancient protective measures against Bughuul included destroying all reflective surfaces in a home where it had been sighted, burning any representations of it, and inscribing countersymbols on doorways and windows. Modern reports suggest digital protections might include avoiding photography and video recording in locations where manifestations have occurred and disconnecting from networks where its images might spread. But these are stopgap measures at best. The entity has existed for millennia, adapting to each new technology humans develop. From polished metal to glass mirrors to photographs to digital screens, each innovation offering new pathways between worlds. What happens now that you know? Now that you've read this account, seen these patterns across history? Bagul's power grows with recognition. Each person who learns of it creates another point of awareness, another potential gateway. You might be thinking this is merely a disturbing story, fiction disguised as fact. I hope, for your sake, that's what you continue to believe. Skepticism is armor. But tonight, when you catch movement in your peripheral vision, when your screen reflects something that isn't quite right, when you feel watched through the glass of your windows or devices, remember that awareness goes both ways. Learning about Bagul means Bagul has learned about you. It's waiting, watching, always watching, and now it sees you too. In the coming days, pay attention to reflective surfaces. Notice any unusual residue, any scratching sounds in walls or electronics. Be particularly vigilant of children in your life suddenly drawing tall, thin figures, or talking about seeing someone through mirrors or screens. If you've read this far, you're already part of the pattern. The entity now exists in your awareness, which means you exist in its awareness too. I've done what I can to warn you, to share what countless others have tried to document before their research disappeared and they met unfortunate ends. What happens next depends on how deeply Bagul has noticed you. Some who learn of it report no phenomena at all. Others experience escalating manifestations, sightings in reflections, electronic disruptions, ash residue, the symbol appearing in unexpected places. If you begin experiencing these signs, traditional countermeasures include covering or removing reflective surfaces, avoiding digital screens where possible, and never capturing images or video where manifestations have occurred. Most importantly, if you've seen the signs, do not share this information directly with others. Awareness spreads the influence. Protection lies in obscurity. I've taken precautions with my own safety, distributing this research through channels that cannot be traced back to me. By the time you read this, I will have destroyed all original documentation and relocated to a place with minimal technology and no reflective surfaces. Will it be enough? History suggests otherwise. Those who document Bagul rarely survive long after their work is complete. I feel its attention focusing now, sense its presence in reflections and peripheral vision. The weight of being watched. But someone needed to compile this record, to connect the fragments across centuries that others have tried to document before they were silenced. Someone needed to warn you. Look away from your screen now. Notice that faint reflection behind you. Is it just your imagination, or is there something standing just beyond your field of vision, something tall and thin, waiting for you to turn around? Don't look. Never look directly. Those who see its face are already lost. It's there now, behind you, watching, waiting, and now it knows you know.